ridiculous appearance than ever, and which gained them the applause of friends. And Albert had fastened the fatal bunch of violets to his buttonhole. At the first sound of the bell, they hastened into the carts by the Via Vittoria. At the second turn, a bunch of fresh violets thrown from a carriage filled with harlequins indicated to Albert that, like himself and his friend, the peasants had changed their costume also, and whether it was the result of chance or whether a similar feeling had possessed them both, while he had changed his costume, they had assumed his. Albert placed the fresh bucket in his buttonhole, but he kept the faded one in his hand, and when he again met the calash, he raised it to his lips, an action which seemed greatly to amuse not only the fair lady who had thrown it, but her joyous companions also. The day was as gay as the preceding one, perhaps even more animated and noisy. The count appeared for an instant at his window, but when they again passed, he had disappeared. It is almost needless to say that the flirtation between Albert and a fair peasant continued all day. In the evening, on his return, Franz found a letter from the embassy informing him that he would have the honor of being received by His Holiness the next day. At each previous visit he had made to Rome, he had solicited and obtained the same favor, and indicated as much by a religious feeling as by gratitude. He was unwilling to quit the capital of the Christian world without laying his respectful homage at the feet of one of St. Peter's successors, who had set the rare example of all the rites. He did not think of the carnival, for in spite of his condescension and touching kindness, one cannot incline oneself without awe before the venerable and noble old man called Gregory the 16th. On his return from the Vatican, Franz carefully avoided the Carso. He brought away with him a treasure of prize thoughts to which the mad gaiety of the maskers would have been profanation. At 10 minutes past 5, Albert entered overjoyed. The harlequin had resumed her peasant's costume, and as he passed raised her mask, she was charming. Franz congratulated Albert, who received his congratulations with the air of a man conscious that they are merited. He had recognized by certain unmistakable signs that his fair incognita belonged to the aristocracy. Him had made up his mind to write to her. The next day, Franz remarked while he gave these details that Albert seemed to have something to ask him, but that he was unwilling to ask it. He insisted upon it, declaring beforehand that he was willing to make any sacrifice to other wished. Albert let himself be pressed just as long as friendship required, and involved to Franz that he would do him a great favor by allowing him to occupy the carriage alone the next day. Albert attributed to Franz's absence the extreme kindness of the fair peasant in raising her mask. Franz was not sufficiently egotistical to stop Albert in the middle of an adventure that promised to prove so agreeable to his curiosity and so flattering to his vanity. He felt assured that the perfect indiscretion of his friend would duly inform him of all that happened, and as during 3 years that he had traveled all over Italy, a similar piece of good fortune had never fallen to his share. Franz was by no means sorry to learn how to act on such an occasion. He therefore promised Albert that he would content himself the more with witnessing the carnival from the windows of the Rospoli Palace. The next morning he saw Albert pass and repass, holding an enormous bucket, which he doubtless meant to make the bearer of his amorous epistle. This belief has changed into certainly when Franz saw the bucket in the hand of a charming harlequin dressed in a rose-colored setting. The evening was no longer joy, but delirium. Albert nothing doubted, but the fair unknown would reply in the same manner. Franz anticipated his wishes by saying that the noise fatigued him and that he should pass the next day in writing and looking over his journal. Albert was not deceived, for the next evening Franz saw him enter triumphantly shaking off all the paper which he held by one corner. What said he was I mistaken? She has answered you, cried Franz. Read this word was pronounced in a manner impossible to describe. Franz took the letter and read. Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock, stand from your carriage opposite the Via de Pontetici and follow the Roman peasant who snatched your torch from you. When you arrive at the first step of the church of San Giacomo, be sure to fasten a knot of rose-colored ribbons to the shoulder of your harlequin costume, in order that you may be recognized. Until then you will not see me. Constancy and discretion. Well, asked he, when Franz had finished, what do you think of that? I think that the adventurer is assuming a very agreeable appearance. I think so also, replied Albert, and I very much fear you will go along to the Duke of Fortuna's ball. Franz and Albert had received that morning an invitation from the celebrated Roman banker. Take care, Albert, said Franz. All the nobility of Rome will be present, and if your fair incognita belong to the higher class of society, she must go there. Whether she goes there or not, my opinion is still the same, returned Albert. You have read the letter? Yes, you know how imperfectly the women of the Mezza Cita are educated in Italy. This is the name of the lower class. Yes, well, read the letter again. Look at the writing and find if you can any blemish in the language or orthography. The writing was in reality charming and the orthography irreproachable. You are born to good fortune, said Franz as he returned the letter. Laugh as much as you will, replied Albert. I am in love. You alarm me, cried Franz. I see that I shall not only go alone to the Duke of Brachnos, but also return to Florence alone, if my unknown be as amiable as she is beautiful, said Albert. I shall fix myself at Rome for 6 weeks at least. I adore Rome, and I have always had a great taste for archaeology. Come 2 or 3 more such adventures, and I do not despair of seeing you a number almost to the ground, in order that there might be no confusion. Franz wore his peasant's costume. As the day advanced, the tumult became greater, and there was not on a pavement. No. In the carriages at the windows, a single tongue that was silent, a single arm with a did not move. It was a human storm made up of a thunder of cries and a hail of sweetmeats, flowers, eggs, oranges, and nosegays. At 3 o'clock, the sound of fireworks set off the Piazza de Popola and the Piazza de Venezia announced that the races were about to begin. The races, like the Macaulay, are one of the episodes peculiar to the last days of the carnival. At the sound of the fireworks, the carriage system broke ranks and retired by the adjacent streets. All these evolutions are executed with an inconceivable address and marvelous rapidity, without the police interfering in the matter. The pedestrians ranged themselves against the walls, then the trampling of horses and the crashing of steel were heard. A detachment of carbineers, 15 abreast, galloped up the Corsa in order to clear it for the Barbary. When the detachment arrived at the Piazza di Venezia, a second volley of fireworks has discharged to announce that the street was clear almost instantly. In the midst of the tremendous and general outcry, 7 or 8 horses, excited by the shouts of 300,000 spectators, passed by like lightning. Then the castle of Saint Angelo fired 3 cannon to indicate that number 3 had won immediately without any other signal. The carriage smoothed and flowing on towards the Corsa, down all the streets like torn pent up for a while, which again into the parent river, and the immense stream again continued its course between two granite banks. A new source of noise and movement was added to the crowd. The settlers of Macaulay entered on the scene. The Macaulay are candles which vary in size from the pastel paper to the rushlight, and which give to each actor in the great final scene of the carnival two very serious problems: the rebel with first how to keep his own machellato alight, and secondly how to extinguish the macellity of others. The machellato is like life. Man has found but one means of transmitting it, and that one comes from God, but he has discovered 1,000 means of taking it away, and the devil has somewhat aided him. The Magellada is kindled by approaching it to the light, but who can describe the 1,000 means of extinguishing the Magellada? The gigantic billows on monstrous extinguishers, the superhuman fins. Everyone hastened to purchase Magellada. Franz and Albert among the rest. The night was rapidly approaching, and already at the cry of Magellada, repeated by the shrill voice of 1,000 winners, though our 3 stars began to burn among the crowd. It was a signal. At the end of 10 minutes, 50,000 lights glittered, descending from the Piazza di Venezia to Piazza di Popola, and mounting from the Piazza di Popola to Piazza di Venezia. It seemed like the fate of Jack-o'-lanterns. It is impossible to inform any idea of it, which, out having seen it, suppose that all the stars had descended all from the sky and mingled in a wild dance on the face of the earth, the whole accompanied by cries that were never heard in any other part of the world. The Ficino follows in prince and tavern, the citizen, every one belonging extinguisher and lighting, had always appeared at this moment. He would have been proclaimed king of the Mocholi, and Kula the heir presumptive to the throne. The battle of holy and flame continued for 2 hours. The Corsa would light as day. The features of the spectators on the 3rd and 4th stories were visible. Every 5 minutes Albert took out his watch. At length it pointed to 7. The two friends were in the Via del Pontefice. Albert sprang out, hearing his machellato in his hand. 2 or 3 masks strove to knock his machellato out of his hand, but Albert, first-rate pugilist, sent them rolling in the street, one after another, and continued his course towards the church of San Giacomo. The steps were crowded with masks who strove to snatch each other's torches. Franz followed Albert with his eyes and saw him mount the first step. Instantly, a mask wearing the well-known costume of a peasant woman snatched his machellato from him without his offering any resistance. Franz was too far off to hear what they said, but without doubt nothing hostile passed, for he saw Albert disappear arm in arm with the peasant girl. He watched them pass through the crowd for some time without land. He lost sight of them in the Via Mattella. Suddenly, the bell that gives the signal for the end of the carnival sounded, and at the same instant all the Mattella were extinguished as if by enchantment. It seemed as though one immense blast of the wind has extinguished everyone. Franz found himself in utter darkness. No sound was audible save that of the carriages that were carrying the milk skirts home. Nothing was visible save a few lights that